Welcome to the Washington Small Business Employment Law Help website. My name is Gary Smith and I'm with the Independent Business Association. The IBA has been helping small businesses comply with employment laws and other laws for 46 years. This presentation will take just 15 short minutes and is packed with valuable information to help you save money and avoid costly violations. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates that 70% of employers are violating some employment law in some way. This slide shows some common recent headlines in Washington State where small employers face large fines for violations of Washington employment laws. These types of large fines can kill a small business. We're going to help you avoid these types of fines. This slide shows the 13 most common Washington employment law violations. In the next 14 minutes, this presentation will summarize each of these violations and provide you access to more information and compliance assistance to help your small business avoid these violations and the fines that go along with them. Each of these violations has a different web address to access more information and compliance assistance. Why free? The Department of Labor and Industries knows that most small businesses are in violation of one or more state wage and hour employment laws. The department wants to help small businesses comply with these laws rather than going through the cost and finding violators, auditing, and fining them. So the department is funding this voluntary compliance effort to help small businesses comply with these laws, avoid costly fines and penalties. The department believes in and prefers using education before enforcement or voluntary compliance. It's much easier and less costly for small business and for the department. Why no risk? The department knows that if a small business feels it will face an inspection or audit by seeking help from the department, most small businesses won't contact the department for help. This website is provided by a private contractor and does not collect any information about who uses this site for information to comply with Washington's employment laws. Since we have no information about who you are or your business, we can't provide any information to the department. You can be totally confident that using this site will not result in an inspection or audit of your business's employment law compliance. This site includes a disclaimer. The site provides basic information. The employment law situation of every small business is different. This site is not providing legal advice and does not assure total compliance. It gives you the basics. The Washington State employment laws affect different small businesses in different ways. You, the user of this site, are advised to contact a qualified employment law attorney for legal advice on how to comply with Washington's employment laws in your business. It's much less costly to seek the advice of an attorney than face thousands in fines and penalties in the future. The first common violation is not paying overtime as required. Paying overtime seems like a simple thing, but it is the most common violation for the reasons shown on this slide. Poor record keeping is one of the most common causes of a violation. Not tracking rest and meal breaks is also a common violation. Not counting all time worked and determining if an employee worked overtime or not is a common violation. Making rounding up and rounding down errors is also a common violation. You can get more detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address shown at the bottom of this page. Misclassifying salaried workers as being exempt from overtime is another very common violation. Yes, some salaried workers are exempt from overtime pay, but only if they meet two basic requirements. First, the worker must meet one of Washington's duties tests. Washington has duties tests for executive, administrative, professional, outside sales, and computer professional employees. Second, the worker must be paid at least $684 per week as of January 1st, 2020. Only if both of those conditions are met is a salaried worker exempt from overtime. The minimum pay rate for salaried workers will be increasing in future years. You can get more detailed information about this issue at the web address shown below. Calling workers independent contractors instead of employees is another very common violation by small businesses. Workers who are under the direction and control of a business are employees and do not qualify as independent contractors under federal or state law. Washington state laws on who is and who is not an independent contractor are different from federal laws and are more complex in some areas than federal laws. You can get more detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address shown at the bottom of this page. Failing to ensure workers get their required rest and meal breaks and documenting those breaks is another common violation. Washington state law provides workers with a 10-minute rest break during any 4-hour work shift, a 30-minute meal break during any work shift of 5 or more hours. Workers are entitled to those breaks and will be paid for them whether they get them or not. This often results in up to 50 minutes of overtime per day and adds up quickly when your business is audited. Not providing breaks is often the basis of a worker complaint to the department that triggers an inspection and audit. You can get more detailed information to avoid these violations and penalties at the web address at the bottom of this page. Failing to keep good hours worked records is also a common violation. Small employers often do not count the time a worker is in a meeting, training, or other activities as shown on this slide. That's all paid time, and failing to include that time in hours worked is a violation. Not paying for that time results in a worker complaint to the department and triggers an inspection and audit. You can get more detailed information about avoiding these violations and penalties at the web address shown at the bottom of this page. This slide shows the common hours worked requirements for your employees. They must be paid for all of the time spent doing any of these activities in addition to the normal work time. There are other times employees must be paid. This is not a comprehensive list. You can get more detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address shown at the bottom of this page. Not knowing that Washington state employment laws have a number of unique elements as compared to federal laws often results in a violation of Washington state laws. This slide shows some of the unique Washington state employment law elements. Minimum wage rates are higher in Washington state than federal law. Washington state has paid leave laws that the federal government does not. Independent contractors are different in Washington state than under federal law. Salaried worker overtime provisions are different in Washington state than under federal law. This is not a comprehensive list, and you should check with a qualified employment law attorney regarding your business. You can get more detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address shown at the bottom of this page. Washington state has two paid leave laws. The Washington state paid sick leave law took effect on January 1, 2018. Many small employers are in violation of this law. Washington state's Paid Family and Medical Leave Act started collecting premiums on January 1, 2019, and allows qualified workers to take paid family and medical leave after January 1, 2020. It too has a number of complex requirements. Violating these laws can result in penalties. You can get detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address shown at the bottom of this page. Not having required worker personnel records required by state and federal laws is another common violation. Washington state requires 15 personnel records for every worker. The federal government requires more. Examples include I-9 Employment Eligibility Form, W-4 Employment Withholding Form. This is not a comprehensive list. You can get more detailed information to avoid violations and penalties at the web address at the bottom of this page. Making pay procedure errors is another common violation of Washington state employment laws. In addition to the items listed on this slide, the issue of providing a correct pay stub is also a common violation. You can get more detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address shown at the bottom of this page. Hiring workers under 18 is another common violation. Washington state has several laws dealing with hiring workers under age 18. For workers under age 14, there is one set of laws, another set of laws for workers 14 or 15, and a third set of laws for workers who are 16 or 17. You can get more detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address at the bottom of this page. Washington state has worker uniform laws, and this is also a common violation. Those laws define what a uniform is and is not. They require the employer to pay for a uniform. They prohibit employers from requiring a worker to make a deposit or pay for uniforms. You can get more detailed information and avoid violations and penalties at the web address at the bottom of this page. Workers who commonly receive tips or businesses that collect a service charge have additional requirements under Washington state employment laws. The laws require that the employer pay all tips to employees who earn the tips. The employer cannot take any tip money for any business purpose. Tip crediting is not allowed in Washington state. Employers may establish a tip pooling system, but it must be clearly written and comply with state tip pooling law requirements. You can get more information to avoid violations and penalties at the website shown at the bottom of this page. Thank you for viewing this presentation to find out how to voluntarily comply with Washington state employment laws and avoid violations and possibly thousands in penalties. This website is provided by the Independent Business Association, a private contractor, under contract with the Department of Labor and Industries. This site does not collect any information about who uses this site for information to help to comply with Washington state's employment laws. The materials on this website have been reviewed and approved by the Washington Department of Labor and Industries. We strongly encourage you to view other presentations and access additional information and compliance materials on this website to come into better compliance with Washington state employment law requirements and avoid large fines. Please remember that the information on this website is not legal advice and does not assure total compliance. It only gives you the basics. The Washington state employment laws affect every small business in different ways. You, the user, are advised to contact a qualified employment law attorney for legal advice of how to comply with Washington's employment laws. It is much less costly to seek the advice of an attorney than face thousands in fines and penalties in the future.